All right. You guys ready for decision time? Yeah. All right. Are you ready for decision time? Yeah. All right, good. Well, the good news there is that you're here. And you know what's really interesting is I always talk about this. In my very first makeover I did, it was called the cruise ship or nursing home makeover. All right? And so where does everybody think that they're going to end up? Cruise ship, right? Like nobody at 16 years old is like, I'm going to end up in the nursing home. Like maybe now we've been conditioned to think that, right? But we all at 16 or 10 years old thought, hey, we're going to live our lives out on the cruise ship. We're going to be playing with our grandkids. We're going to be doing all these things. But when you look at the contrast, right? You look at the contrast of that video, like you can go both ways. You can go both ways. And I think one of the problems is that, you know, we've been duped. We've literally been duped to think that health is a thing that we have to get. And we're going to start off right now by reminding you that health, you were born with it. Like you didn't have to do anything, you were born with it. And the problem now is that we live in a toxic world. We live in a toxic world that with the pesticides and the chemicals and the foods that we eat and the thoughts that we have and the people that we associate with, right? The driving in traffic and the stresses that we have, literally everywhere that we look, we live in this toxic world. But we also live in a deficient world. We live in a world many times that's deficient of love. We live in a world that's deficient of appreciation and deficient in people saying thank you very much, and deficient in nutrients in the foods that we eat, and deficient in exercise, and deficient in positive thoughts, and deficient in purpose. And so that's what tonight's about. Is really we're going to be focusing on what we call deficiency or toxicity. And so my wife asked me today. She goes, "Are you wearing black because it makes you look thin?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, of course." Don't we all? Like, I mean, that's what's supposed to happen. So this right here is me. This is my daughter. This is my dad. So right after that picture was taken, I peaked at 285 pounds. Okay, and in fact, my dad passed away, and my wife said to me, she said, something has to change. And I said, what? You know, like sometimes you get so caught up, you almost don't know where to go. You don't know what the plan is. And I said, like what? She goes, more exercise. The God's honest truth, you know what my brain heard? More French fries. I literally said, more French fries? Like, what does that have to do with it? She goes, no, I didn't say more French fries. I said more exercise. And so it's interesting what our dominant thought is at that time, like becomes what we hear people say. And so what, you know, and like the, you know, diet means that, you know, did I try everything? You know what I mean? Like when we go to like I was trying to like do everything, but as opposed to following all my own good advice. And so I've been here, you know, like we went on vacations. If we ever gone on vacation and I gained a few pounds there, didn't feel really good about that. Like pretty much every vacation, you know. And so I've been there with you guys. Like the struggles that I have are the same struggles that you guys have. The good news is I have a different perspective because I get to step back and see it. I don't get caught up in what's happening with me. I get to see it, and that's the biggest thing for perspective. And so what tonight is about is that it's about challenges. And you guys know this. Have you ever run into challenges and they just feel overwhelming sometimes? And you just finally like, I just can't take it. So I'm really, right now, really big into the Stoic philosophers. And Seneca had a very interesting quote, and basically what he was talking about is he said, we're all going to have challenges, but they can't affect you because they can't affect your character. Only you can revoke your character. And once you hold on to your character and you know who you are, then you can use your character to change the challenge. See, a lot of times we let the challenge change us. We let a diagnosis change us. We let the stresses at work change us, and we start forgetting who we are. And what I want to remind you is that you are brilliant and powerful. Your body was designed to heal. It was designed to be healthy. And if you come at healthcare from that perspective, then you stop taking the approach that I'm going to just try to be less sick. So when my dad died, it was just a little bit after this. It wasn't. It was that moment that shifted everything. And I hope today is that one transformation day. Seneca, once again, they're having two debates, and one guy is up there. He's like gives this great oration, and everybody clapped, and they said that was great information. At the end of when Seneca got up and spoke, they said, let's march. And that's what I want to do tonight, is I don't want to have you say, hey, Dr. Osman, that was a great information, that was a great class. I want you to march and I want you to take action. So Dr. Sherry and I have been working on this for a long time, but I do want you to remember that you are under construction right now. Your body's constantly repairing every single day, okay? And in that repair process, that your body's going to need certain things. And that's what today's about. Let food be thy medicine. It's not to treat disease. Your medicine is to make you healthier, not to be less sick there. So I love Jerry Seinfeld. I don't know if you guys, I actually had to stop watching rewinds, or they don't even do rewinds right now. Reruns. But of course everyone wants to be healthy. The amusing thing is that no one's really sure how to do it, right? That's that thing, we want it, but we just don't know what to do. And so tonight is really about a plan. It's about a plan, and I'm going to show you the plan, and I'm going to make it super simple. So one of the great things with Obamacare, they had to get the codes for diagnoses. So we went from about 25,000 diagnoses to over 50,000 diagnoses, right? There's a diagnosis for everything. Did you know that there's like an injury code for being sucked into a turbine of a jet airplane? Literally, they're that specific. And so a lot of times when you have so many diagnoses, you actually just get overwhelmed. It takes your power away. You don't know what to do. Somebody says, you have lemony snickets. And you're like, oh, lemony snickets, what do I do? We don't know what to do. So I'm going to simplify this for you guys, and it's going to forever change how you think about your health care, how you think about eating, how you think about life. Okay, so check this out. There is how many diseases?
One.
Is that easy?
Yeah.
If all you have to do is focus on the one thing, then it makes this whole healthcare thing super simple, okay? So there's one diseases, and how many causes?
2.
There we go. See, you guys are paying attention, I love it. All right, so now and the 2 causes are deficiency and toxicity. That's it. You're either deficient in something or you're toxic in something. So let's say somebody suffocates. Are they deficient in something or toxic in something? Deficient in air, right? And nobody would say, oh, you have a suffocation syndrome. You're like, no, you just have an air deficiency, right? If you're starving to death, right, you're deficient in something, right? If somebody goes out, and I don't know if this is a dumb analogy, but they drink too much tequila. I was actually at the liquor store, and this lady bought a big bottle of Jägermeister. And I was like, oh, just thinking about it made me want to throw up. But I asked her, does it ever make you sick? And she goes, oh yeah, all the time. And I'm like, well, it shouldn't be. She doesn't have, she's not sick. Does that make sense? She has a toxicity issue. And the simple way of approaching this is, you have Jägermeister disease, right? There's only going to be one of 2 causes. She definitely doesn't have a deficiency of Jägermeister, right? But what does she have? Toxicity of Jägermeister. So to fix her problem, what does she have to do? Get rid of her toxicity. Do you guys see how this works? So when you go to the doctor and you have a health issue, and what is he typically going to give you? Medication. Is that going to make you?
I can't read that top thing.
Oh, that's all right. I'll be emailing it. Yeah, it's cellular malfunction. That's the one disease. Sorry.
Thank you.
I get ahead of myself. All right? So this is the key I want you to understand. Now, there's 6 pathways that this can happen. We have our nutrition pathway, what you eat, right? Either it's toxic or it's not toxic. The toxins that we put into our body. And so think about, nutrients are like gas for your car. If you don't have enough nutrients, your car's not going to work no matter how awesome that car is. And if you pour mud into your gas tank, that car's not going to work no matter how good the machinery is there. Does it make sense? Our mental processes, how we think, our mental processes will create toxic or deficient thought patterns there, which will change our body's chemistry. Physically, how we move. If we're deficient in exercise, exercise isn't a choice. You're either toxic or deficient in exercise, right? People that are running, ultra marathons and have a heart attack, that's an exercise toxicity. Now, people that are sitting on the couch with their remotes like that, saying I have no energy, what do they have? A deficiency, right? So do you see how easy this is? Genetics. Your genes are what you're born with. You just don't have to express them. They know that when they've done studies of people that they remove a toxic and deficient lifestyle, they've actually turned on over 240 genes that are for health and turned off 186 genes that are disease-causing genes. So it's not your genes, but they have a factor in there. And medicine, right? Like, you know, and that's the problem many times in these pathways. Our healthcare approach is either going to be a toxic approach or a deficient approach. And that's what we have. That's how, if we can look at it from that perspective, how many diseases are there?
One.
And the number, because you can't read it, it's cellular malfunction. You're only as healthy as your cells are. Okay? If you have 6 cells, are you going to be healthy or sick?
Sick.
Right? You see, like if you have deficient cells, you can be like healthy or sick. Toxic cells, healthy or sick. You see how it works there? So it's super simple. And guess what? You're 72 trillion cells. So like our whole goal today is to teach you how to have healthy cells. Simple. And then there's 2 causes and there's 6 pathways. We try to simplify this whole process that we're going to look at. You either have a deficiency of nerve flow, deficiency of life flowing from your brain to your body, or you can have toxic nerve stress. So you can have pressure on the nervous system, or the nervous system can be irritated and constant stress and strain there. We look at nutrition. Like it's either toxicity or deficiency. It's either building you up or breaking you down there. Our mindsets, we're either having toxic mindsets or deficient mindset thought there. Oxygen and exercise, we talk about these things. So that's why it's the 5 essentials. So when somebody's like, hey, I really like the nutrition, but I don't like to exercise, and how come I'm not having amazing results? Well, it's because you're deficient in one of your essentials there. You see how easy that is? So that's why we get excited about what we do. When somebody comes in, they're like, hey, I have all these health problems. I'm like, oh, I don't care about what the label is. Let's just fix the problem there. Let's get to that, and we just have to ask better questions there. Dr. Sherry.
Yes.
We have the esteemed Dr. Sherry, one of my oldest friends.
Hiding.
And not oldest like as old,
Oh, is
but
that
like
what you meant?
longest relationships that I've had as a friend.
Wow.
That was the best, sorry.
That was good. That was good.
All right. So Dr. Sherry and I have been working on this for a long time here. And so I'm going to pass it over to Dr. Sherry. And he's going to be covering the nutrition part. And then tonight we're going to be also going over the challenge, really what we call step 1. And I'm not going to give you step 2 until you do step 1. It doesn't make any sense because it doesn't work because you're deficient in step 1 that way. All right? You have toxic information. And then too much information. And then we're going to go over the challenge. We're going to be going over the kind of the plan moving forward with the challenge and really setting some goals there. All right, Dr. Sherry?
I'm ready.
All right.
All right, let's do it. Thank you. How awesome. So I'll tell you guys something. Before I even get started, I'm going to admit something right now. I have way too much stuff. We are no way, unless everyone brought their sleeping bag, we are not getting through all the stuff I have, okay? The problem with nutrition is whenever we do a nutrition talk, whenever I get ready to do nutrition, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's the best topic. There's so many things to talk about. And then you start getting ready for it and you realize, whoa, this is like teaching everybody in 45 minutes how to build a skyscraper of a building. There's a lot involved here. And not only is that, it's constantly changing. It's constantly changing. You know, when we do the chiropractic part, that's a really fun talk. We know that inside out. It hasn't changed in a long time. And the way you look at it is, okay, I got 45 minutes to an hour. How do I pack in the best stuff in 45 minutes? In nutrition, literally tonight, what I want you guys to look for, hopefully you have a piece of paper. If you don't, I have some. If not, grab some in front. You gotta write down a few nuggets on all these nutrition talks. Whenever I go to a seminar on nutrition, I'm always fishing. I've gotta learn a couple of things. So my goal for you tonight is when you leave to have 2 to 5 new little nuggets of information that make you go, huh, that's interesting. One thing about nutrition that always gets me, and I brought this quote up. This quote always makes me think how this works. Charles H. DeWall, he was the commissioner of the U.S. Patent Office in 1899. That was a long time ago, right? You want to know what he's famous for? He's famous for this quote. Are you ready? He said, quote, everything that can be invented has been invented. That was in 1899. Was he right? No. You know why? Because the iPhone hadn't even come out yet, right? Always get leery when you hear people say stuff like this. The science is done. Good scientists know the science is never done. I could sit here and go through a whole hour and talk to you about how we thought the science was done, only to find out that we were wrong on how it works. We're constantly understanding how the body works, We're learning more and more. I've got some really cool stuff that I'm going to show you here in a second as we move along. Okay? One more quote. Max Planck said, are you ready for this? Science advances funeral by funeral.
That's true.
Science advances funeral by funeral. What that means is that most of us as human beings, we take in what we learned, we think it's truth, and we just go our whole life, even though new information comes up, we won't change because we just buy into the old ways that we have always done it. So open mind, thinking outside the box. So here's the deal. Everybody wants to be healthy, right? I've met with every single one of you almost individually, one-on-one, at some point in a re-exam or a new patient, and every one of you at some point has told me that you want to be here because you want to be healthy. Is that true?
Yes.
You're in this room because you want to be healthy. You're in the room because you don't want to end up in a convalescent home, but you want to end up on a cruise ship. The problem is when I go into re-exams with most of the patients, you guys, and we look at results, and I go, well, you're not really doing what we talked about. Give yourself a letter grade on how well you've done with actions, not words, but with actions. And what I usually get is a C, D, or an F. In other words, it's actions, not words. So I want you to kind of prove it, right? Where are you shopping right now? When you're thinking of health, where are you getting your food from? What are you buying? What restaurants are you going to? Right? Check yourself on this. Where's your money going? Are you spending it getting adjusted at a health club and eating healthy? Or are you buying big screens, televisions, and comfortable couches to sit on? Right? You got to be smart, and you got to think and be honest with yourself. What am I really doing? Am I just a big talker, or does my actions actually make sense? How much time are you actually spending on your health? And be very careful because children are watching, whether children or grandchildren. They're always watching. When my kids were young, I always took them running with me in the stroller. And people would go, oh, isn't that great? You're pushing the kids, it's good for you. And I remember thinking, yeah, but you know what's also good for them? Because from the time they were little, my kids remembered being put in a stroller and going for runs. They remember going to open water swims and sitting on the beach and watching me swim. I love that stuff, but I was handing it over to them. This is how you take care of your body. So remember that. Are you reading labels when you buy things? When you go to the store, are you actually looking at what's going in your body? You got to choose your path. All right, I'd like to start with something funny. Everyone see that? This is how zebras get looked at by lions. Take a minute to look. You see it? Right? If you're a lion, that's exactly what it looks like, right? Nice Oreo cookies in here. Now, I want to share something with you. We've all been getting played as Americans by the food industry. Because the food industry knows a couple of things about you, me, and the person sitting next to you. They actually know how your brain works. They actually know how your physiology works. And they actually know where your weak spots are. And they play to it because they make money on it. And they know certain things. How many people know who Pavlov's dog is? Listen, good. For those of you who don't, Pavlov was a psychologist way back in the 1600s or 1700s or something. And what he did is he noticed that when he went to feed the dog, okay, around the time he's supposed to feed the dog would actually start salivating before he ate. Saliva is what starts breaking down food. So what he did is he actually trained the dog. What he would do is ring the bell and then feed the dog. Ring the bell, feed the dog, ring the bell. And then what he found out is, guess what? The dog would salivate to what? The bell. The dog would salivate to the bell. He didn't have to have food out. You ring the bell. The dog would salivate. Very interesting. By the way, that lesson is how all of you are being marketed to. Let me give you an example. Almost every single one of you have probably eaten at a fast food restaurant at some point in your life. They don't keep the golden arches year after year after year after year because they bought the signs and it's cheaper. They bought it because the majority of Americans, when they see the golden arches, start to salivate. You know why? Because you're Pavlov's dog, and they know that. They put the sign up, and if you don't believe that, when you're driving along and you see the sign, you start salivating, and you think, oh, I should eat. You weren't even hungry, but you ate. A university recently did a study. They took college kids, they put them in front of a movie. They gave them a small bag of M&Ms, and they turned the movie on. What they found is the college kids would sit there and eat those bag of M&Ms straight through, and they finished the bag. The researchers said, well, that was interesting, so they gave them a bigger bowl. College kids sat there, they brought different kids in. They'd sit there, and they would eat until the bowl was gone. They said, this is like mindless eating. These kids are just eating haphazardly. They kept making the bowl bigger and bigger. Eventually, they set these college kids next to a gigantic bowl of M&Ms. You know what they found? Almost every single one of them would sit and eat M&Ms mindlessly for the entire movie.
Wow.
Mindlessly just eating along. Now, one thing I want to throw out. Here's a nugget that you should write down. You can eat dead food mindlessly. It's hard to eat living food mindless. Living food, try this. Take apples, pears, anything that if you plant in the ground will grow right now. Try to eat, cut up a ton of apples and start trying to eat them and tell me if you can eat them. You can't. You can't. Your body naturally knows. But create a fortified or a food that's manufactured. Your body doesn't have the ability to turn it off. It continues to give you pleasure centers and you'll eat endlessly. So be aware. Marketing to you for food is driven by your psychology. There's big money out there and they're forcing it down on you, okay? Let's talk about life for a second. The definition of life, I saw this not too long ago, is all of these things. We know something's alive, it has metabolism, if it's hereditary, if it's reproducing, if it's growing, if it's responding, if it has cells. All those things are the definition of life. Don't worry about all those. Look at this one, assimilation. We know that something is alive if it can assimilate something. And what that means is, if you can take a product, when I heard this, it freaked me out. If you can take a product, put it into your mouth, and it becomes you. That's life. Think about that. That's assimilation. That's what this amoeba does. If you've ever seen them in a video, they wrap themselves around something and they dissolve it and digest it. And they turn that product into you. If you think of it that way, it's like an alien movie, right? It's like, oh my gosh, that's what we do. I take a head of lettuce and it becomes me. Isn't that crazy? Whatever you eat becomes you. So when you think of that in your mindset, whatever you're putting in, if it's a box of Oreos, guess what? The Oreos are going to become you. Whatever you're putting in is going to be assimilated into your body. The act of becoming part of something greater. When you start thinking of food, I want you to realize they're feeding you food that gives you pleasure in your brain. It's not good for you. You have to start changing the mindset of how you eat into not something you get pleasure in, but something that gives you food and information, things that keep your body healthy. Break away from using food as a pleasure source, which is what they want you to do. How do we break through the barriers? Why are diets so hard? Well, first of all, there's a ton of misinformation everywhere. The bad news is the old information is out there all over the place. Right? That's one thing. There's a ton of money involved. They're marketing these things to you. There's food addictions. This book right here, there's a couple of books I'll tell you about. If you want to read a really good book, grab Breaking the Food Seduction by Neil Bernard. Now, for those of you who are not readers, I'm going to tell you a couple things that he talks about in the book. He talks about, and this changed everything for me, nutrition, everything. He started talking about how they looked at PET scans of the human brain, which is where the brain is active when people eat. And one thing they did with the study is these researchers at a university took cow's milk and were giving to people. And what they realized, interestingly enough, is the pleasure center in the middle of the human brain would light up like a Christmas tree when people had milk products. They thought, wow, that's really interesting. Really interesting. So they took a look at the milk. And what they found in the cow's milk they were using, it had morphine derivative molecules in there. Molecules that were like morphine. And they were surprised by that. They thought, oh, that's weird. No wonder these brains were lighting up. Basically, we're giving them morphine. No wonder, right? So the researchers thought, well, where's the morphine coming in cow's milk? One thing they knew is that morphine comes from poppies, right? So the researchers thought, oh, it must be these cows that we use must be in a field where there are poppies and they're eating them, and that's what's giving them morphine. So they grabbed another group of cows and did the study again, and guess what they found? The same results. So they started looking at all kinds of milks, and guess what they found out, guys? Every mammal on this planet, inside of human mother or inside their mother's milk, has these morphine derivative molecules naturally. Now, if you're researchers, you have to ask yourself, why? You've got to come up with a theory. Why are these molecules in there? And they came up with a couple of theories. One of them is when you take morphine, you go a little gooky. Everybody seen a baby or an animal when it milks? What does it do? We used to call it the milk high. You probably did too, right? The baby milks and they get what? Stoned. And we used to laugh, oh, look at them, they're stoned. They really are stoned. Really stoned. And they said when that baby is stoned, it's in a better position to like stare at its mom and fall in love. That's one theory they had. The other thing, interestingly enough, they said, is one of the side effects of morphine is you get constipated because it actually slows down your whole digestive tract. And these researchers said, that's interesting. If you're only taking in a liquid diet, it might be a good thing to have something to slow down your digestive tract. Good point. Now, here's where they got interesting. You ready? The book says, if that's true, if we had a food product that had a morphine addictive molecule in it, if we condensed it and took the water out of it and made it into a solid brick so that people were addicted to it, don't you think it would be everywhere?
Yes.
It's called cheese.
You would, wouldn't you? What's it called?
Cheese.
Cheese. It's called cheese. And that's exactly why cheese is everywhere. That's why all of us love it. Okay? In fact, the researchers make an argument that said, guess what? Cheese actually doesn't smell very good. And actually, younger kids, they said, for the most part, don't even like it at first. But you learn to like it because of the addictive responses. That book talks all about that, and it changed the way I realized, oh my gosh, I'm not eating the food that I'm eating because it's healthy for me and I quote like it. I'm eating it because I'm being triggered by a bell and I'm being triggered by an addiction to the food products. That whole book talks about how do you break out of that habit. If you start thinking of what you're eating as an addiction, it changes your opinion of what you're doing. Now, to do that's tough. There's no elevator success. You got to take the stairs. You got to work hard. Success is not an accident. It's hard work, perseverance, learning, study, sacrifice. You have to keep working at these things, okay? And I love Neil A. Maxwell's quote. I've been saying it forever. Never give up what you want most for what you want today. If you want to be healthy and you want to be on a cruise ship, you don't get to eat the Oreos. It's just not the way it works. If you want to be sick in life, then you can do those things, or if you just give up. But if you really want to be here, you really want to be healthy, you're going to have to break some of these food addictions that we have that we're carrying. The hard thing is, the food people know you have it, and they're putting the advertisements everywhere to trigger you. Anytime you drive down the street, the bell's ringing. All right? Keep that in mind. Okay, 3 major dangers. In our society, it's too much sugar. Why? I'm going to show you why in our society there's way too much sugar, and they know it, and that's why they're playing it to us. There's way too many toxins, and there's not enough good fats. It's almost like a perfect storm in a way our nutrition is boiled down. So what do we got to do? We got to clean it up. We got to clean up the carbs. By the way, carbs and sugars are the same thing. Okay? They're the exact same thing. Carbs and sugar. We love them, right? Sugar and carbs are carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. That's it. It's a simple molecule of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. We love it, though. Here's the key for this, though. The human body, when it looks at energy needs, because that's really what we're eating for, right? We're eating to get energy. The number one thing that we want to eat and use, our number one source physiologically to produce energy is carbohydrates. We're carbohydrate machines. We're designed to break them down. You don't think our addiction to carbohydrates is some random thing, right? We were taught and educated physiologically, we get rewarded every time. Study on rats. They took rats, put them in a cage. They got them addicted to cocaine. Right? Got them really addicted to cocaine. Then they introduced sugar water into the cage. They gave the rats the choice. You can go to the cocaine, which you're addicted to, or you could have the sugar water, which is over here. Guess what they chose? Sugar water. Addicted to cocaine, they chose sugar. They chose sugar. Everyone goes, oh my gosh. I go, no, not oh my gosh. They're wired to eat that. Their brain is triggered by carbohydrates. They're getting a huge reward by consuming carbohydrates. So it makes sense. Listen, we wouldn't be on this planet if cocaine was the answer, right? We wouldn't be here. We're always being fed to what we need. We got to fix the fats. Our fat situation is out of control in this country, this world in general. We got fooled by the nutrition companies. Remember, it's always changing, right? We got fooled by that no fat thing. We got to clean the healthy proteins, and we got to get rid of the toxins. So I'm going to show you some of that as we move through. Okay, myth number one. I got some myths to go through. I have bad genes, and so do my parents were sick, so I'm going to suffer the same fate. Okay, The problem with the gene thing is it's too damn easy for you guys. It's just too easy, right? I want to be healthy, I want to lose weight, but it's so much work, and then someone goes, don't worry, it's your genes. And what does that do? It frees you up to go, oh, see, I'm a victim. I don't have to do that stuff because it really doesn't matter what I do because I have the gene. Women with the breast cancer gene only get breast cancer 10 to 15% of the time. It's not the genes, guys. It's the environment that allows the gene to express itself. Genetics load the gun. Your lifestyle pulls the trigger, Dr. Oz said. Genes are not your fate. Dean Ornish, MD. Genes aren't your fate, okay? Changing genes. Listen to this. Craig Vetter is showing how genes change with environment. You know what he did? He takes people, has them eat a healthy diet, and has them exercise. And you know what they showed? I couldn't get the picture up. I was in a hurry last night. Lifestyle changes and increasing exercise listen to this, over 500 genes, the healthy genes, got flipped on. And over 500 of the bad genes got flipped off when you exercise and eat right. All your lifestyle changes the genetic code and how it works. I love this cherry blossom study, and I had to throw it in whether it makes sense or not. I just think it's amazing how our bodies work. Researchers took mice. They put them in cages. They flooded it with a cherry blossom smell, and then they would shock these poor mice. They did this over and over until the mice would have a response to the smell of cherry. So the mice are in the cage, the cherry blossom smell comes in, and the mice would start stressing out, and they said, okay, we got them. They're reacting to the cherry blossom smell. They then take these mice and let them go breed. Put it back in the group. They took the mice's offspring. You guys ready for this? They took the offspring of those mice, put them in the cage, pumped in cherry blossom smell, and the offspring freaked out. The offspring had never been shocked. The offspring had never smelled cherry blossoms before. If you don't quite grasp how amazing that is, you're passing on your habits and things onto our offsprings via our genes. That's amazing. By the way, the effect went for 4 generations down. Wow. That's amazing. Now, those are mice. Does it work in us? I don't know yet. They don't know. That's interesting, right? Your patterns and things can be passed on down through that. That was published in the journal Nature and Neuroscience. Okay, inflammation is a big one. Almost every disease that we have is inflammation related. Almost every diet the American is eating is inflammation driving. Most of us, when you watch people eat, they're eating the exact wrong foods. Their brains are getting rewarded by the exact wrong foods, and they're just stuffing in their mouth, and then they wonder, why do you think I'm sick? You go, well, you're putting in the wrong thing. You're assimilating the wrong things into your body, and sugar's a huge one. You know, back in the 50s when they decided to start saying fat was the bad thing, the sugar industry was hopped on that in a hurry, right? A real fast hurry. They said, yeah, it's fat. That's who did it. It's fat. It's those guys. It's over there. It's us. And sugar, see, the trick was, when we eat fat, we get a little reward in our brain, but remember, you're carbohydrate machine. So when you eat simple sugars and carbohydrates, you get a huge hit. So the sugar people knew that. And they said, yeah, blame fats, drop fats, increase sugar, and we all became sugar addicts, just like the mice. They're going after it. So we got to drop that because it damages all this and helps us. Now, I'm going to introduce you to microcirculation. Microcirculation is this. It's defined as the location where oxygen, nutrients, and hormones and waste products are exchanged between the blood and the cells. Research has been driven into the microcirculation world because we're finding out, like Dr. Osmond was saying, it's all the health of your cells. And the microcirculation is the tiny, tiny vessels that literally like one red blood cell can get through. And as it travels down, that's where it's doing its dirty work, it's exchanging stuff, it's grabbing, that's where all the stuff's happening. How good your microcirculation is actually dependent on how healthy you are. If you have bad microcirculation, you're not getting blood and nutrients to the cells in the distant parts, and things are dying. It's all about microcirculation. You have to keep that healthy and alive. Here's how we're starting to look at it. New technology, the orthogonal polarization spectral scan, side stream dark field. We got all these cool new toys to look at the actual, these are some of the pictures of them, the researchers looking at the microcirculation on people, trying to figure out like what's happening at the cellular level, right? All of it's related to heart disease, diabetes, aging, sexual dysfunction, vision, stroke, you name it, it's related to if you can keep the right nutrients getting to the right cells. So, as you look at this process, and we start thinking, what do I need to eat? What do I need to eat to keep healthy microcirculation? Exercise is not going to be taught today, but it's a huge component of microcirculation, right? You got to establish a value system. Over 90% of the diseases Americans face today are caused by lifestyle. Process that. 90% of the diseases that most of us and your friends and family are lifestyle choices. Eating the wrong things and being sedentary. It's that easy, okay? Set a good example and expectations. Years ago, we used to die from illnesses and injuries. Bacterial and viral infections did us in. Birth was a huge one, right? We've turned the tide on that. Now, all of us, we have the luxury of picking how we die. Isn't that interesting? All of you in the room, you actually get to pick. Not exactly, but pretty close. By your lifestyle habits. What you do and what you eat really will determine what's going to be the cause of your death. Older generations didn't have that. They'd run around and be afraid, I'm going to catch an infection, I'm going to get sick, I'm going to fall and break my leg and die. They all died much earlier. We have the luxury of living long enough to see your lifestyle and health choices in your life, and it just depends on how you did it. You have to decide what you want. Myth number 2 or 3, counting calories is an effective way to healthy nutrition. So counting, we used to always learn that in school. Counting calories, right? There's some truth. If you strip calories down to nothing, you definitely lose weight, but you're not very healthy. So take a look at this. 22 almonds is about 153 calories. 1 Trinkie, about 150 calories. Same basic idea. Listen, if it was only that easy, right? If it was just a matter of counting calories, that would be a cakewalk, no pun intended. Right? But it's not that easy. Those are clearly different effects on your body than this. So it's not just a matter of calories, and it's the quality of the calories that we put into our body. Sugar high. I want you guys to see something. When you look at us and you look at the effect on sugar, I pulled this slide up. I said, well, what's the health? Have we been eating sugar for a long, long time? Why don't you see something? In the 1300s, Europe began importing raw cane sugar. By the way, these are really small. They just started. In the 1600s, they started figuring out how to make sugar from beets. In 1745, they extracted some sugar from beets. In the end of the 1700s, 1800s, political turmoil halts it completely. War stopped. There's no sugar. In 1801, they opened the first beet sugar factory in Central Europe. 1801. Now listen, 1801 was how long ago? Right? 200 plus years ago? It wasn't that long ago, guys. If you look at the history of human beings on the planet, that's that. It just started. This is just starting. You guys are an experiment, all this sugar. It was never like that, right? From 1802 to 2010, Europe beet growing, sugar processing develops further, becomes a modern, highly efficient machine, pressing out simple sugars everywhere across the planet. In the last 200 plus years, it's actually just happened. Literally, if you looked at the history of time, it doesn't even show up as a blip how quickly this has happened to us. You want to see something interesting? Look at that. How about the amount of sugar intake? Look at what people were taking in the 1700s. 1850, 19, here it is. It all started right here. Look at the climb. By the way, there's 2 dips there. Test question, you get bonus if you figure out why there were 2 dips.
Wars.
Yes, good knowledge. World War I and World War II.
Depression too.
Yeah, and we were a little distracted by some other things in the world. So our sugar consumption dropped, but boom, fought right back, didn't it? It just keeps climbing and climbing and climbing. Now, don't be intimidated by this. I want to show you something. These are chemical, molecular structures on sugar. If sugar's the thing that's killing a majority of us and creating the majority of diseases in our world, you better know the enemy. I've coached a lot of teams in my lifetime, and the way I win games is I scout. What do you mean scout? I go watch the other team play. So I know my enemy, right? This is glucose. You see that molecular ring? Yeah. That's glucose. That's what your body wants. Your body's going to take whatever sugars you consume and break it into that. Okay? Sucrose. This is table sugar. You see that? It just breaks it in half. It just does that to it, and it has glucose. You see that? Look, it just goes like that. It's easy. Body goes, look, I got 2 glucose. It's that easy. It's easy. I just do that. I have them, right? Your body loves that. That's a simple sugar. It's super cool. Your body's like, that was heaven. I didn't have to do anything. I just did that, and I have 2 of them. I didn't have any effort. Your body's like, give me more of that. That was really cool. And I broke it and it went right into blood. Blood sugar goes right through the roof. Okay, simple sugars. It's easy, and your body's like, hot damn, give me more of that. But you get a huge reward in your brain for having that because that was good and it was fast and I didn't use a lot of energy. Your body's all about energy conservation. Your body doesn't want to use energy if it doesn't have to. Give me simple sugars, I break them and I have them. No big deal. Complex carbohydrate is a sugar. This, by the way, is the molecular structure of a polysaccharide, which is what the fibers are that you get in fruits and vegetables. Your body looks at that and goes, I see a lot of work there. Yeah. You go, wait a minute, I got it. So I was up, winter is coming, and so we have a cabin and we have to chop wood. I'm not a big fan of chopping wood, so I looked, this guy unloaded all the wood on our driveway and it's not split. And you see the look on my face? That's exactly how I looked at it. It's this huge stack of wood. I thought, oh my gosh. I immediately started thinking, that's a lot of wood, and that's a lot of swinging an axe, and that's a lot of stacking the wood. And then I thought, how much was it again if he was to stack it himself? I mean, what did we have to, how much did we save? That's a lot of work. The human body looks at that and says, that's a lot of work. I gotta break that down. It's a lot of work. I gotta break those apart. My blood sugar goes up very gradually. Okay? What's the problem? You don't get the reward though. Brain goes, well, that sucked. Don't give you get no reward for that, right? Go back and give me this, because that's easy to make into that. Is there anything worse than sugar? Yeah. This is table sugar, guys. The 2 rings. Your body loves it. Loves it. Sucralose. Sucralose is an artificial sweetener. Okay? Here's what they figured out. They can take this molecule in a lab, in a chemistry lab, manipulate the molecule, change it, and make your sensation go through the roof. You want to know the change they did? See that? And that? Remember when I started, I said sugars are carbohydrates. Carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. We love it. The only other thing that we typically put in our body is nitrogen in the form of proteins. They took this molecule and took off the oxygen, hydrogen, and put on, do you see that? Chlorine.
Oh,
They put 3 chlorine molecules onto it. And when they did that, the sweetness of that went through the roof. You know how they advertise it to you guys? They say sucralose. It's made from real sugar. Which is true, it is made from real sugar. But it's a dramatically different molecule. They put chlorine on there. I was a lifeguard for years. I've swam my entire life. The number one thing you would teach lifeguards when I was a head lifeguard is, the most dangerous thing in this pool is what? And they all go, people drowning. I go, no! It's those huge tanks of chlorine in the back. If one of those breaks, you'll kill everybody. The whole pool. And they're like, no, no. I'm like, no, really? If that thing ruptures and we chlorinate this whole area, everyone dies. Chlorine gas is not good for us. It certainly doesn't seem to me to be good to be in the body. Okay? Here's the other ones, the other sweeteners. I just want you to see the molecules. You just have to know your enemy, right? There's aspartame. Does that molecule look anything like sucrose at all or sugar? It doesn't, does it? Artificial sweeteners are designed to increase your sweetness, cheaper. Okay, now let's look at something interesting. This chart, here's sucralose, which one I just showed you with chlorine on it. It's sold as Splenda. The number of times sweeter than table sugar. What is it? 600 times sweeter than normal sugar. Well, why do they put it in there? Do you know why? Because I can take 1 pound of normal sugar that I used to put in your food, I can chemically change it, and it's worth now 600 pounds. Does that save me money? Yep. Do I care that it actually has chlorine in it? No. You know what I sold to them? I said, don't worry, it's inert and it doesn't even affect you. It just goes in and comes right out. Don't worry what it's in. Don't worry that there's chlorine. Chlorine? No one even told you. Did anyone tell you it has chlorine in it? Look at this other one. This sweetener is 8,000 times sweeter than sugar. Are they playing with your mind in chemistry?
Yes.
Heck yeah, they are. Are they winning? Yep. The word no sugar or low sugar might as well just say full of crap. Or they could just say very dangerous poison, please stay away. The other thing is no calories. That's a great one. Do these have calories? No. You know why they don't have calories? Because they're not supposed to be in your body. So it goes into your system, your body goes, oh, wait, what is that? Like, I don't even know what to do with that.
So question for you,
Yeah.
does the body still process that in the
Good, I'm getting right there. Look at this, right here. A study showed that with a moderate consumption, we're talking about Splenda, 96%, 97% of it, of sucralose, leaves our body. So what they did on these is they had people eat it, and then they just took a look at what was excreted. Okay? So they were happy. They go, listen, 98% of this garbage that we're putting in you comes right out. Comes right out. If you're not know what you're talking about, you're like, oh, see, it's 98, that's fine, 98%. If you think about it, you go, but wait a minute, where's the other 2% go? Where's the other 2% of those chlorine molecules going? Because your body doesn't have the ability to get rid of. We were never designed to consume chlorine. We don't have the biological processes to get rid of chlorine. So where's it going? It's going into your body and being stored somewhere. It's creating some sort of process. 2008 Duke University study that Splenda alters the intestinal flora. Well, wait a minute. The flora is the bacteria in my stomach. The bacteria in my stomach. I remember I told you I was a lifeguard, right? And I remember that whenever something happens in the pool, we had to add what? Chlorine. So every once in a while in a public pool, there's always the kid that poops in the pool. And what's the procedure? Listen, my procedure was everyone had to get out of the pool immediately, right? We had to clean that pool, and we had to do what's called shocking the pool, right? You guys all know this stuff. We poured what? A ton of chlorine into the pool to kill all the bacteria in that pool. Wait a minute, chlorine to kill bacteria. Whoa, you telling me there's chlorine on the molecule that you consume that goes in and destroys the bacteria inside of your stomach, which helps you digest food, and you go, oh, that's okay, I'll just have some. No, it's not good. Yeah.
What about Splenda?
That is Splenda.
I mean, not Splenda, stevia.
Stevia, okay, so stevia is the natural one. I'll talk about that in a
Okay,
second.
okay.
No, I'll come back to that. Okay? So that one tends to be a little bit healthier. You'll see what I'm coming up with. So if sugar's so bad, what can we use as a sweetener? First of all, try to go less sugar. What I want you guys to get is you gotta get away from eating for pleasure, right? One thing about stress, in the stress workshop I talk about this, but I don't go in depth with it, which is when we're under a lot of stress, eating, are you guys ready for this? The act of eating decreases your stress.
Yes, it does.
Right?
We all know that.
Everyone knows this.
Yes.
We watched wild animals like elk, when they get chased, or an antelope gets chased by a lion and it gets away, it walks around and goes, whoa, that was nuts, he almost got me. And then they stand there and look around, and guess what they start doing? Eating. I like all of you guys, and I would love for you to come over to my house, but I'm not going to invite you to come over when we have a family fight. That's a stressful time. Hey, I want all of you to come over. My son and I are going to get in a fight about college, probably tonight around 7. Can you make it? I've never invited you, but I will invite you for what? Dinner. Why? Because the act of eating is de-stressing, and we like it. Okay? The act of eating sugar adds to the effect. Oh my gosh, I can eat, get rid of stress, and get addicted to it? Oh my gosh, wouldn't ice cream be even better with the morphine? Of course it would be. You guys see it? Listen, if you don't know the enemy, you don't know how to battle it, right? So my first thought is you gotta try to just lessen the sugar. Stop, eat more for health, and not get caught up in the seduction of the addictions, okay? By the way, is that a lot easier to say than do? Yep. And as I sit here, I always tell my daughter, I go, whenever I'm doing a talk, I go inside, I'm like, oh my gosh, I gotta do that too. We all have addictions. But now that you know this information, look at what you're eating. And you're gonna be blown away, okay? On the challenge, when you do the challenges, look at what you're eating and look at what you're craving and go, oh my gosh, I'm addicted to that. Like, that's a food addiction, right? Eat for nourishment, not pleasure. Here's a great book you should all read. This is the only second book I'm gonna give you tonight. The Hacking of the American Mind. And it goes into how we've been fooled by the concept of pleasure versus happiness. And pleasure is the effect of eating food like that gives you pleasure. Happiness is like watching your kids graduate from high school. Happiness lasts a long time. Pleasure is very short term, but they sell you pleasure. That's why most of us can't remember what you ate last night. Okay? Pleasure and happiness. Great book, you should read it. Other things are good. Honey, dates, maple syrup. Those are better sweeteners. They're a little more. But just try to get your appetite pulled away from, oh my God, I have to have sweets. I have to have sweets. You want to see one more thing how they play you? At the grocery store when you're checking out, how many people see healthy foods right there? Is there a reason that they haven't changed the label on any of those candy bars from the day we were all born? Lucky Strikes, anybody know this? Do you remember the candy cigarettes? You know what? This is one of the greatest marketing things in nutrition, and every marketing company knows this. They sold you candy cigarettes. And remember, we all thought we were cool, right? Blowing out the sugar. They went back and followed that up, and you know what they found out? Kids that had got the candy ones that looked like Lucky Strike were 65% more likely to smoke cigarettes.
Wow.
They were 80% more likely to smoke which ones?
Lucky
Lucky Strikes. Do you know why? Because when they took in that sugar, they got a brain hit, and their brain said, oh, that was good. That's the logo. Logo, bell, salva, got it, bing, bang. Later I'm smoking. I look, I'm like, oh my God, there's the logo. Right? Don't be fooled. We're all being tricked into this stuff. Okay, myth. Fats make you fat. Yeah, I knew I wasn't going to do all this. Fat makes you fat. In Alaska, we couldn't figure out in the old days, when they were saying fat's bad, fat's bad, fat's bad, they went up to Alaska. What's that? Yep, they went up to Alaska and they're like, wait, all the Inuit people don't have heart attacks, strokes, they're all healthy. They're all eating fat. That's when they discovered there's different kinds of fats. There were good fats and bad fats, right? And they found out they were eating predominantly omega-3 fats, okay? Your brain is made up of 60% fat. Young kids developing need fat in their diet. It's a big part of developing, okay? Marketing ploy by sugar industry, we talked about that. Humans' mother milk is full of fat, okay? Full of it. Now, I'm bummed this kind of got copied over, but I want to show you something. I want to compare the species. I always hear people say, well, if I don't drink milk, okay, we're going to do a little milk thing. If I don't drink milk, where do I get all the protein and all of this and stuff? And I'm going to show you guys something that you're very brainwashed. I used to do workshops for the San Jose Fire Department all the time. And once in a while, they would invite me to a fire station to do nutrition. And they learned to regret that day. And here's why. I took 2 glasses with me almost every time. And I filled them full of milk, and I put them on the table. And I would say this. That's cow's milk. I have a patient who's pregnant, and she's pumped human mother's milk into that glass. Which one do you want to drink? All of you are brainwashed. Every single one of you is brainwashed. Because the idea of drinking the human mother's milk is disgusting to most of you. And when I ask you why, you're going to say this. What if she's sick? And I'm going to hit you. What are you talking about? Have you ever gone to a dairy? I took my kids to a dairy when they were young to show them. We watched over 100 to 200 cows. I went to Fresno State, by the way. We watched 100 to 200 cows walk in and get milk. And every single cow got milked into the same thing that went into the same container. That glass of cow's milk isn't one cow. It's hundreds of cows.
That's right.
And you weren't designed to drink milk after that. Human mother's milk is designed for you. It's actually different. By the way, if it was really about protein, why would you drink cow's milk? Rat's milk is almost 50% protein. Hey, most of you have a cat. It's 40% protein. Listen, I mean, everyone's laughing, it's funny, but listen, you've all been brainwashed. You all think cow's milk. Why? Why? Name one other animal that drinks milk after it's weaned from its mother. None. None. You're the only ones. Name another animal that drinks another mammal's milk. None. You are it. Once in a while I get this. Cats. I go, okay. They do because we give it to them. Right? Am I right? There's no cat running after a cow and milking. It doesn't happen. Right? If it does, take a picture. I got to see it. Okay? Dog milk's 30%. If you're going to tell me you're drinking cow's milk for protein, then I'm going to laugh at you and say you're brainwashed more than you think. It's not that. Okay? Human mother's milk, if you want to know, is a whopping 5% protein. protein. Okay? There's a different look there. These other charts, sorry, I messed that up, but it shows you, I want to show you something really interesting. This one got covered, but I got to show you something. Human mother's milk has, so in milk products, there's different kinds of proteins. There's casein, which most of you have heard of, right? Casein and whey, okay? In human mother's milk, the amount of casein is 0.5%. Horse is 1.3, cow 2.8, buffalo 3.5, goat 2.7, sheep 4.9. Human is 0.5 casein. Milk's one of the #1 things that cause allergy and digestive problems, and they think it's casein. Well, isn't it weird that casein is so low in our milk, but yet it's so high in the other mammals? Yeah.
What's that other column say?
That which one? This one?
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing it up. This is this chart is comparing the amount of protein and calories to how fast the animal doubles its size. So they're showing you a direct relation, like the higher the protein, the quicker the animal doubles its weight. Right? And human, we double our weight in about 180 days as opposed to rats in about 4 days. So that's what that chart was showing. But I want you to see the difference in that whey, and the whey protein in mother's milk and our milk is actually fairly similar to all the other proteins. But casein, we're dramatically lower in casein, okay? Okay, bad fat versus good fat. Here, I'm gonna go through this really quick. There are good fats, okay? I'm not gonna get through all of this. The fatty fish are a big deal, okay? When you eat fish, you gotta remember the heavy metals in fish, right? You gotta avoid the trans fats. And we're giving this out, right, Doc?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna leave that slide. You can look at it because it's pretty much self-explanatory, okay? Okay, conventional meats is a big deal. I spent some time in Ireland. We had some relatives that were fish farmers in Ireland off the coast of Galway. So I got to go on the boats and go out to the big rings, right, where all the salmon are and stuff, and I got to see it in real time. And it was interesting to watch what they feed those fish. They all get fed pellets. Now, they didn't know, the Irish fish farmers didn't know what I was asking about, but I said, what's in the food? Yeah, what's in the ground up food? They said, well, it's other fish ground up.
Oh.
It's also antibiotics. It's also filler. Super interesting process. They spray it out, right? They have inspectors who come on scuba suits and go underneath and try to calculate how much food's being eaten and not being eaten. Those fish have no option. That's the only thing they eat, right? So anything they give them are going right into that flesh, right? So when you're eating food, if you're going to choose to eat animal products, you've got to try to get as clean of meat products as you want, okay? You have to fight. Oh, but it's more expensive. Cruise ship or convalescent home, it's your call. It's your turn, right? I'm never going to be there to twist your arm. You do whatever you want. Well, it's $2 cheaper. I know. It's okay. You do what you want, right?
So
but
fish should be not farmed.
yeah, you try to go wild on it for sure. Now, there's even some debate because our society is getting so toxic, even the wild fish now, right, have problems. So there's no guarantee there when you eat these flesh food. You know, more and more of these animals, take a look at this. Carnivores accumulate toxins 10 times as much as herbivores. So carnivores are eating, right, more animals. A lot of us are carnivores, and we're eating more. 100 times more toxic than plants and soils. Okay, so you want to avoid it. Oh, I want to go back real quick. I want to show you something. This is a big one. The ranchers who are doing this, the fish farmers, and I loved the Irish cousins who were the fish farmers. They were the nicest guys in the world. They would do anything when we were there for us. They were great guys. Never once in the discussions I had with them for 2 weeks did any of them say anything about health on their fish. What were they worried about? They wanted to make sure that the food they were putting in was all getting eaten. Because any pellets that fell to the bottom was what? Waste, and it cost them money. That's why the scuba diver was down there counting food. Because what he said was, the last thing I want to do is put out too much food, and it all goes to the bottom, it's a waste, and it cost me money. Money. It was all about money. He had to make sure his fish were fat, because he got paid by what? By the pound, right? It was all about making it fat. He said, we got to get them to the shipping yard. We got to pull them out. We got to get them out. I was there when they were harvesting all these fish, and he was weighing everything. I never once did he say, by the way, this is really healthy. Never, never. Restaurants are never worried about your health. The chef cooking the food doesn't care whether you're on a cruise ship or you're in a convalescent home. That chef, she doesn't care. What does she care about? That it tastes good. You know why? Because you're going to buy them because you're going to come back. So she'll put in whatever she can. He'll put in whatever he wants. He's not worried about your health. He's worried about making sure it tastes good so that you'll come back. They're worried about ringing the bell so that you'll come back to the restaurant, right? Change animal products first. Get grass-fed beef if you're going to do it. Free-range chickens, wild-caught fish is better. Natural source dairy if you're going to go that route. There's a really good source of protein that Maximize Living does. Okay, the whey protein. I like the vegetable protein, but that one's put up there. The grass-fed whey protein is a really good source if you want to do that as a source of protein. Okay, that's on the slides. Myth: you need 5 to 8 servings of grains every day in a healthy diet. I'm going to go a little faster because I'm running out of time. Whole foods and vegetables and fruits give us plenty of the carbs in our body that we need. The push, yeah.
Back a few slides, grass-fed, there's a subtlety in that industry. There's feeding, and then there's the stockyards where they slaughter. It's called finishing. And so you have to get 100% grass-fed because otherwise they'll finish with grain or GMO, soybeans, or whatever.
So it has to stay 100%.
Yeah. So remember I said it's a game, right? It's a marketing game and a labeling game, right? Here's a simple one. Most of you should know this. This product is 100% natural. If you don't know this yet, hold on real quick. If you don't know this, the term natural actually means nothing. No one knows what that means. Okay? Even the organic label, they're trying to get better, but you're not even getting a fair shake half the time. They try to put labeling laws, but we don't even really, we're not even getting the data. Yeah.
Almond milk.
Yeah. I like almond
It's a
milk.
big thing now.
Yeah. The world is changing. People are going toward whole foods is the answer. We do really well with whole foods, vegetables and fruits and all those things. We do really well. I mean, we were designed to eat those things, right? Now, the problem with the things with the GMO, we'll talk about this in a second. So GMO, what they did is they genetically modified the food. They modified it to get bigger. Take a look at this. This is the ancient wheat, einkorn, and that's the modern wheat. They modified it over time. Look at the difference in it. This is the ancient wheat. Look how small it is compared to what they modified. They hybridized it. They changed it year after year after year. And now this is the difference. That's what we used to eat. And people go, what do you mean used to eat? Like a couple hundred years ago? I'm like, no. Thousands of years ago. And we've been eating it for, we've changed it. Yeah, we changed it dramatically. Okay? All right, we'll skip over that one. This is in the notes. This talks about the FDA, how everyone trusts them and stuff, but they've made poor decision after poor decision after poor decision on their health. And a lot of times they get paid to do
But
that.
are eggs good or not?
Eggs are okay, and the whole thing against eggs was the cholesterol thing.
Yeah.
It turns out we need cholesterol, so it kind of flipped on its head.
But they changed it every year.
Okay, be careful of the GMOs. Oh, real quick, they changed the GMOs to make it grow better, but the main thing they wanted to do was they changed the product so that they could spray it with things like Roundup. Okay, so Roundup used to kill everything, and then some engineers figured out, hey, if we take this bacteria genetic thing and we insert it into the vegetable, we can spray it and it doesn't kill it. So what you'll get, interestingly enough, the argument over GMO, genetically modified food, people go, well, it's fine. We're just modifying the food. We've tested it. It has nothing to do with it. Now, there's a debate there. If you want to argue that, I think there's plenty of people who would argue and say, we're still a little skeptical about you changing it genetically. But that's not really the danger, in my opinion. The real danger is, before they modified it, they had to be very, very careful where they sprayed Roundup because it would kill all their food, right? So they had to be guy had to go around and be very careful to spray. Okay, once you modify it so that Roundup doesn't kill it, right? You can spray it everywhere. It's easy because none of your crops, so now your crops are covered with it even more than ever before. And so they go, but it increased production and we can create so much more food. And you go, yeah, but by the way, most of that is sprayed on corn and soybeans. Most of the corn and soybeans are supplemented by your U.S. government to feed what? Animals. Which go into animals, they eat all of that product, it soaks into their body, and then you choose to eat them and you're getting it, right? So you gotta be wise where you're getting it. Again, ring the bell. All right, eating healthy is boring and tasteless. If you say that now, you're gonna drive you crazy. There are so many cool things. I'm predominantly a vegetarian, and I go to these amazing raw restaurants where they make things that just are mind-blowing. So I will always tell you guys, if you wanna change your diet, listen, if you go in, even if you go to Disneyland, so we went to Disneyland like 3 months ago, and my daughter was in such a bad mood. I don't know why, something had gotten in her fur. And she was grumpy the whole time at Disneyland. I'm like, how do you be grumpy at Disneyland?
Happiest place
Right?
on earth.
Yeah, it's a happy place to work. She was grumpy. Now she rallied after lunch and turns into herself. We had a great time. You can be grumpy everywhere, right? If you choose that. Listen, if you go, I'm going to change my diet, but I'm not going to like it. Well, guess what? You're not going to like it. Right? You go to Disneyland and say, I'm here, but I'm not going to like it. You're not going to like it. That's the answer. But if you go to Disneyland and say, oh my gosh, this place is epic. I'm going everywhere. You're going to have a good time. If you go, I'm going to change my diet and I'm going to have a good time. I'm going to order some cookbooks. I'm going to change. I'm going to have a good time. I'm going to take my old recipes and see how I can modify them and change them. You're going to have a good time. Okay? And trust me, it's not boring. There's a ton of options out there. The Maximize Living meal plans almost just walk you through the system. They just walk you right through there, okay? The advanced plan, you'll see it in the book. It's designed if you're having health problems, you really pick up and go aggressively. You take a look at this one. The core plan is the one that most people, if you're not having health problems, you don't want to do cleanses, the core plan. It's in the book. You can just read through. There's recipes. It's easy peasy. Easy peasy, right? It doesn't take a lot of effort. You just have to do it. Kind of how I started this by saying you got to check. Actions are talk, right? You can take the actions, you're going to jump in and do it. 3 basic changes on those advanced plan: the sugar and carbohydrates, the protein and the fats. Okay, removing the bad fats, getting conventional protein sources, natural protein sources. Again, this will be in the notes as I'm running out of time. Foods to avoid: foods containing processed carbohydrates and sugars. We talked about that. Drop the sugar substitutes. I hope I made that point pretty aggressively. Foods containing fats that turn rancid. Any type of highly processed foods. There's an old rule. I'll tell you plenty. The old rule on shopping for food at grocery stores used to always work. And it said, the healthy part is on the outside of the grocery lines, right? So somebody has a great sense of humor at Safeway. Because money is made on alcohol, right? Predominantly at restaurants. They make a lot of money on alcohol. Food doesn't have a big markup, really, for a grocery store, but alcohol does. So Safeway must have got word on everyone saying shop on the outside. So the outside was what? The fruits and veggies, and then like the breads and the grains, right? And then Safeway about 10 years ago switched it and put all the alcohol on one side. So out on the outside isn't always healthy. On one side really is, but the other side you become an alcoholic. Be careful. Okay? They even have the breads and the alcohol in the same row sometimes now. So be careful on the shopping on the outsides, okay? Okay, labeling reads and do's and don'ts. Okay, I want you to be careful that you avoid monosodium glutamate. Okay, also known as MSG. Take a look at your label. You gotta read labels. If you're not gonna eat whole foods, which none of us really can. One more thing I want to share real quick on this. Don't get too gung-ho. This is a marathon, not a sprint. I need you to get wins on this. Okay? You've all tried diets and we've all failed. And then you've tried another diet, you failed. And then you tried another diet, you failed. You tried another diet, you failed. And pretty soon you say, you know what I'm good at? Failing. Okay? And the answer is when I took over a water polo, Saratoga water polo, they had lost every game the year before I got there. And the first thing I did is I set that team down. I said, okay, so let's just admit we can't beat anybody here. This whole area, we can't. Where can we win? And they said, well, if we go over the hill, or Sacramento, I said, then we're going over the hill. So that first year, we went over the hill every single weekend to play tournaments over there. And what did we start doing over there? Winning. By the time I left 4 years later, we lost in the semifinals of CCS by 1 goal to the team that won it, because that team learned how to win. Because they started winning, and they started going, we're winners. If I had stayed over here and got their butt kicked every single day, they all would agree they're a loser. Nutrition's the same. You have to start winning. Okay? So if you look at this stuff, get fired up, go, I'm going home, and I'm gonna just pace yourself. Start reading labels. Start making the progress. Write down little hints, tips that you're learning. Okay?
Now they don't even put on where the stuff comes from. What
Yes,
country?
I know. They're changing the. By the way, you guys, the game's loaded
What
again.
has sugar in it? Sugar is in ketchup. Who needs sugar in ketchup?
The game is loaded, right? You guys hear our anger? It's marketing, right? They know. All those laws get changed because they want to be able to say, well, we don't want them to do that. Like, we don't want them to know that. We'll take it off of there, right? So, artificial sweeteners taken out, hydrogenated, partially hydrogenated fat, refined flours, colorants, preservatives, chemical names. By the way, just look at the labels. When you see these gigantic words, that's usually a dead giveaway. That's something you don't want in your body. Okay? Shopping, plan your meals for the week. Okay. Here's the reality of the workload. If you're going to eat healthy, if you're going to eat plant-based, you have to go to the store every week. It's just the nature of the world. You have to go. And organic foods, yes, they cost a little bit more. Yes, they go bad a little bit faster. But isn't that okay? I took my mother, she was 75, we went to the store, and I was trying to show her to eat organic foods. So I said, Mom, these are the strawberries. You really should eat organic, especially on strawberries. They're on the dirty dozen. And the organic ones all look like these little red, beat up. Right? And right next to it, because Safeway's not stupid, right next to it is the conventional strawberries. Dun, dun, dun. Right? These gigantic, glowing red strawberries. I swear, every single one of them was like winking at her, smiling. And I'm like, you should eat these. And she couldn't stop herself. Right? That generation used to, when she saw that, right? Even in the 50s, for those of you who were alive in the 50s, if you came across a big strawberry that was standing there all happy, you'd be like, I'm eating that. That's a good strawberry, because it was rare, right? You didn't see that a lot. So when she saw this huge tray of all these big plump strawberries, she doesn't get that all the poisons that are sprayed on it, right? Yeah.
How about frozen vegetables?
Frozen vegetables, yeah, I mean, I don't, in a pinch, I would go frozen if I have to. I try to go whole food raw. I love that, but in a pinch, yeah, you have to. I mean,
If you don't have time, you can keep.
yeah, if that's all we got, then we go with it, right? There's some arguments. I've heard a lot of people say it's not a big deal. Some people, oh, it is, but I think.
Well, use the farmer's market.
Yeah, the
That's
farmer's
very good.
markets are great,
It's
right?
fresh, because the stores have to go to the warehouses where they store the fruit, and then it goes to the store. It takes weeks sometimes to get there.
Okay, here we go. You got it. This is something you're gonna have to fight through. You got to make sure you make your plans when you make your diet. Okay, take a list. Keep the. Oh, by the way, real quick, don't shop when you're hungry. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't shop when you're hungry. Okay? Let me give you an example. You don't shop when you're hungry because that's exactly why the alcoholic doesn't go in the bar when he's sober. Could you imagine taking someone who's just trying to get over a heroin addiction and you go, Bob, I'd like you to come with me. We're having a meeting in the heroin addict den where everyone's going to be doing heroin. And he would go, really? I'd go, yeah, do you think you control yourself? He goes, I'm sure I'll be totally fine.
What's the
Right.
pesticide guide?
Use the pesticide guide. That I dropped in. I think that's up front. Let me write that down. I'll get it right. You don't want to be, when you're starving, and you guys all know intuitively, when you're hungry and you go grocery shopping, you come back with stuff that I'm like, really? I bought a 2-pound bag of M&Ms? When did they jump in there? I didn't even see them jump in, right? I was getting ambushed in the candy row. They were all just into the thing. Like, how did that jump in there again, right? So ideally, when you go shopping, you try to eat and then go. Isn't that weird? Everyone goes, are you kidding me? I go, you're in a war for your health. And if that's the only tool you have is to eat before you go shopping, then don't be an idiot. Go eat before you go shopping. You all know you buy differently when you're hungry because they're ringing the bell every aisle. Ding, 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 ding. The logos are everywhere, right? So make sure you plan that. Stock basic meals on the fly. Spend more time planning and shopping than cooking. Read those labels. Establish your big why. Know why you're eating healthy. I'm eating healthy because I'm dead set on meeting my grandchildren. Okay? The 3 of my children probably won't be in the health field. They won't be in the health field. One of them wants to be an actor. One of them wants to get into management. One of them's still figuring out what she wants to do. But I don't think they're going to be in the health business. Who's going to teach my grandkids how to be healthy? My kids know some stuff, but they don't know everything I know. I need to be alive to help them. A tearjerker. We're skiing one time. I taught all 3 of my kids how to snow ski. And I said, Aubrey, one day you're going to have kids skiing. And she goes, yeah. And I said, you're going to have to teach them. And she goes, no, I'm not teaching them. You're going to teach them.
Yeah.
But I thought, there's a concept on time you might be missing, right? I'm not sure I'll be able to do that. But I do think I can teach my grandkids how to be healthy, to pass it down to them. So know your why. Why are you doing this, okay? Drink your veggies, a good idea. You can read about that. It talks about the polynutrients, anti-inflammatory things that we talked about. Boost your digestion. This is a big one. Most of the foods we have are ruining the enzymes inside the stomach. There are 2 things in digestion that makes a huge difference, a lot with our mind health. The enzymes, okay? The enzymes help break things down, and that's the Max GI product that we have, has the digestive enzymes that you put into your body that oftentimes get killed. The other thing is the inside nutrients, things like the probiotics. You have a lining inside, and we're learning more and more of how it controls the brain, actually. Really interesting things. So making sure you're getting probiotics. There's a really good product out there, the vitamin D with probiotics, helps constantly put it in. Okay? So those 2 products are really important for digestion. If you're eating those things, you got to be able to break it down. Okay? Last thing, here's a challenge. Dr. Osborne has a cool challenge that I think we all should do together. He's going to present it. The challenge that's also out there after you get done, sometimes just try to eat raw for 5 days. I'll do that every so often. I'll just take a week and say I'm going to eat raw food, vegetables and fruits for the whole week. I'm going to learn my addictions. By the way, day 3, you'll know what you're addicted to. Okay? The addictions come to surface really quick. Make changes gradually. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Okay? Change them gradually. You got to get some wins. Do the challenge that we're about to present through Dr. Osborne. You can't make all the changes in one day, but you can make one change today. One change has to happen today. I've gone to seminars, I've taken amazing notes. I leave going, oh my gosh, I think of the 200 doctors here, I probably wrote the best notes. Because I really took time to write them down. Even though my handwriting's crap, but I wrote down everything he said. And that's the last time I ever saw those notes. Right? Don't be that. Take a note, go home and say, you know what I'm doing? I'm changing something, or I'm doing the challenge. Okay? You got to find out your why, because I don't want you here. I want you here. All right. Let's be a team and be healthy, guys. Thank you.
That was like a rock star performance. All right, so hopefully you guys understand that probably sugars, fats, and toxins, right? Kind of get it now. It's not just about eating; it's about what eating does to you. And so I think that the big thing that I really want you guys to think about is the goal tonight is for you to be empowered, right? What if we understood the cause of disease, that if there wasn't 10,000 diseases or 1,000 diseases, there was just one disease, and that's cellular malfunction. And can you see how all those things that he talks about tonight will impact how your cells function there? And I think one of the interesting things is that if we knew that to be true, then we'd be in a position that we'd either have to make a decision whether we're going to make those changes or not, right? If we understand that there's just one cause of disease, one disease that's toxicity and deficiency, we're going to be in a place where we're going to have to make decisions on a daily basis what goes into our mouth and into our lives. The other thing is that when we start looking at when we start looking at your nervous system, when we start looking at that there's nothing more toxic than neurotoxicity or nerve deficiency. And I put this together. What if I live the life that you've always dreamed of? I tried to make this like a drug ad, right? This drug is called Lives in You, right? So what if, and kind of play with me on this one, if you start taking Lives in You, and at first it'll revitalize cellular health and your personal health and well-being. How fantastic does that sound? Can't you see the people running on the beach with this? Lives in you. Right? You only need to take it 3 times a week for a maximum of about 90 days, and then after about that time, about once a week for optimal results. How many medications do you only have to take once a week? You have to take them every single day, right? And then look at this. It's proven to reverse neurodegeneration, increase immunity, reduce chronic disease, physiology, stop bone degeneration, increase telomere length, which is the telomeres are actually the ends of your DNA that as you age, they start unraveling. So what that does is it means it slows down, Lives in You, slows down your DNA degeneration, which slows down aging there. And it allows you, when you use Lives in You, it's actually been shown to actually express good genes while suppressing bad genes. Who wants to take Lives in You? Right? That's what's in you. That power is on the inside of you there, as long as there's no neurotoxicity there. And so a lot of times we get this whole thing confused, right? There's so much about, you try to talk to somebody about chiropractic, and you're like, well, you should go see your chiropractor. Okay, well, there's bones, and from the front, it's got to be straight, and you got nerves, and the brain, it gets overwhelming, and they're like, well, my back hurts. What does that have to do with anything? Well, first of all, we already know what lives in you, but I'm going to simplify it just really quickly for you guys, okay? There's 5 steps to understanding this whole thing about Lives in You. First of all, chiropractic's for everybody, because it deals with every level of human performance. Simple as that. Every level of human performance is if you're happy, if you're sad, if you're a great athlete, if you're tired, if you have tons of energy, every level of human performance is that's what determines whether we're healthy or not. And our performance is controlled by our body's chemistry. Does that make sense? So you go to the doctor and you're sick, what does he give you? Chemistry. Does that make sense? To change your performance. And your chemistry is controlled by your glands and your organs in your body. And for that to happen, they have to function properly 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. When your glands and your organs are functioning properly, then and they're working in harmony, then you can create the right chemistry to create optimal human performance. Do you guys see how this works? How simple this is? The next thing is, guess what controls your glands and your organs? Your brain. Your brain controls your glands and your organs, and so and it's protected by bone. So your brain controls your glands and your organs, which is balancing out and harmonizing your chemistry so that you can be the very best you in everything that you can do. It doesn't mean that you're going to be as good as somebody else, right? It's just about being your very best you. It has nothing to do with backaches or neck pain. It has nothing to do with whether your shoulder hurts or it doesn't hurt. It has everything to do with you expressing yourself to your fullest potential there. Now the problem is this, and you guys know this, is that the nerves are protected by bone until there's vertebral subluxation, until a bone slips out of place, interfering with those nerves, interfering with that delicate balance and the harmony of the chemistry, interfering with your body's ability to perform at its optimal level. So we could be talking about having great food right now, right? But if you're subluxated, you're not going to be able to digest that food, and you're not going to be able to balance out the chemistry that comes from that food. If you're toxic, you're not going to be able to excrete those toxins the same way that you should. And that's what the secret is. The secret is this. A lot of times somebody will come in, they're like, does my back, doc, my back hurts. Can you help? I got sciatica, can you help? I don't know. I don't. Like honestly, to be honest with you, I don't know 100% of the time that your symptoms, your pain, your dysfunction is going to go away. But what I do know is this, that 100% of the time chiropractic works, because 100% of the time when when somebody gets adjusted, their brain works better, their nervous system works better, their glands and their organs regulate better, and their chemistry balances out better, and they perform at a higher level. That's why when you lay on the table, that's why I get excited. That's why when I say the power's on, it's not that it's just a cliche saying. It means that the power that's in the brain is balancing out and healing allowing your body to perform at its optimal level there. How simple is that? It's not that complicated. Now, sometimes they're like, well, is my back pain going to go away? I don't know. What are you going to do? Stay there and let the life channels close down because your back pain didn't go away there? The problem is this, is that the adjustment is a very simple process that removes the interference and balances out and allows you to perform at your very best. That's why when we talk about lives in you, why would you ever want to be in a place where I'm just going to I'm a little bit busy right now, I'm under a lot of stress right now, and I'm going to let my body chemistry get out of balance? Of course, it's going to just create more stress. You notice those times when you're under stress, the last thing that you want to do is do the things that help you perform at a higher level there. When you're sick, I'm too sick to come into the office to get adjusted. Well, why wouldn't you want to come in and get adjusted so your body chemistry can work better, so you can perform at a higher level and your immune system can work at a better level there? You see how simple that is? And so a lot of times we make things so complicated in our lives, we get overwhelmed. But I'm going to ask you a special favor today. Somebody said something to you. Everybody that's here right now, nobody walked in here randomly, okay? So I'm going to ask you, nobody, you didn't, I know. But the point is that I'm going to ask you tonight or tomorrow to go home and make a phone call and just thank them. And just thank them. And let them know how you're feeling. Let them know how much you appreciate them actually taking the time to care about you. And then at the same time, I'm going to ask you just, if you can do me a special favor, go down and think about people's names and just write their names down and give them a call and just tell them the story that I told you tonight. Because the thing is that, look, we look around and the number one conversation that we have is all about our health issues there. We have all about what we know what we could be, but most people are depressed because what they're not. And what our job here is to be able to help people express themselves to their highest potential. And so I'm going to just kind of summarize this real quick of what we did tonight. Number one, these are my 10 essentials of self-healing. It's not Dr. Osborne healing, it's not Dr. Sherry healing, it's self-healing. You guys are doing the healing. You're showing up at the office, you're making the choices, you're doing all these things, you're learning this information. It's a process. So the first thing is you got to have a proper diet, right? You got to have the right food to fuel the cells. Second thing is you got to exercise. I promise you, you have to exercise. Exercise is not an option. I had somebody the other day told me that they were so proud because they got 10,000 steps. Did you know that this is the minimum, not the maximum? That's like they created 10,000 steps to keep you from being in the hospital. Does that make sense? So when you're high-fiving yourself for 10,000 steps, like that's like the RDA for vitamin D is like 400, but that's to keep you from getting rickets. That's when your bones start to bend. So like if you got a Fitbit, flip it, turn it up to 18,000 steps and see how your life changes. Maybe go to 20,000 steps and see how different the world is there. Number 2, self-awareness. You gotta be aware of your body, your mind, your emotions, your thoughts. You have to be conscious about these things because your chemistry is going to determine your thoughts, and your thoughts are gonna be determining your actions. And your actions are gonna have an impact on your chemistry, and it's this vicious cycle. So a lot of times when we're stuck in this place, right? We start, like Dr. Sherry said, we start playing the victim. We start blaming it on everybody else and our circumstances and our situations there. It's not their fault, okay? The circumstances can't change you unless it changes your character. Only you can revoke your character. Only you can let somebody else take control of your life. Knowledge. You guys are here tonight. Knowledge of the body, knowledge of the roles of the cells, and knowing that your cells function right. And number 2 is motivation. And we talked about the big why tonight, right? When there's a great YouTube video that talks about the story of this guy that goes out and he goes to the guru, and the guru and he says, I want to become enlightened. And the guru says, let's go down to the ocean. And he takes him and he holds him under the water just long enough for him not to drown. And he brings him up, and then he takes a deep breath and he puts him down again. And he starts to drown. And he brings him up, and he does it 3 or 4 times. And then he brings him up and he says, why did you do that? And he says, when you want to become enlightened as much as you want to breathe right now, then you'll become enlightened, right? So when you want to become healthy, as much as if I put a plastic bag around your head and you would struggle to breathe, there would be nothing that would get in your way there. There would be 0 excuses there. Next one, self-love. Look, don't beat yourself up, right? Don't beat yourself up. But every single person in here has made a mistake before. Nobody in here is perfect, all right? And so don't beat yourself up. Don't be hard on yourself. But what Dr. Sherry said, if you start doing small things, most times when we're really deficient, we try to do these big, huge things. I'm never going to do this again, and I'm never going to do that again, and for the rest of my life, I'm going to do this. How about if you say, for this next meal, I'm just going to have a small win here, and you do enough small wins, and eventually you're going to start seeing yourself as a winner there. Courage. You got to get uncomfortable to get comfortable, right? And most of us, we try to numb ourselves and try to hide, and we try to constrict because the fear of making change is greater than the fear of remaining the same there. So getting uncomfortable, taking responsibility. At your doctor's report, the one thing I always say, the number 1 rule, does anybody remember what my number 1 rule is? You're responsible for what? Yourself, right? You are responsible for yourself. I'm not responsible for you, you're not responsible, you're responsible for yourself. Positive mental attitude. Last thing is self-care, okay? Self-care is just about taking action, okay? Like that's the big key. And you guys will get all of these notes. If you haven't signed the sign-in sheet, we'll just be emailing you out all the notes. It's online right now, so you can rewatch it if there's a part on there. But the big thing is that's why I always say that the biggest problem is a lot of times we go to something like this and you have all these notes. And I can email you these notes and you can watch the video. But the big key is this. It's about taking action, the next action step. And so I'm going to I put together a challenge here. Now, the big thing is this challenge is what I call step 1, because guess what comes after step 1, and 2, and 3, and 4. It's about building. I want us all to be successful here, but the whole challenge is about fixing the deficiency and removing the toxicity there, okay? And so we'll send out a copy of this to all of you guys, but basically we're not doing the challenge starting tomorrow. We're not doing it next week. I want you to think about it, okay? It's going to start next Monday. It'll give you a chance to start working on these things, to get your mindset right there, to be able to get the things in place that you need to have in place there so that we can start strong. Because if we start in a place of strength, then we're much more likely to finish. It's a 30-day challenge, okay? It's a 30-day toxicity and deficiency challenge. Anybody can do this. Guess what I started? This morning, right? I can't ask you to do something I'm not doing myself. And when we put this together, basically, you know, there's the key on this is to remove toxicity. So what we have is the daily detox that makes up the green vibrance. It has a high concentration of just about everything. It works on the digestive system, the nervous system, bone health. It's a comprehensive whole food supplement that's designed to be able to, like, literally, if this was end of days right now, I'd expect to see all of you guys here trying to steal the green vibrance off the shelves, right? Because it's that complete there. And we're also going to use this. We're also going to use a protein source. We're going to use. You can have a choice of the bone broth protein. You can have a choice of the whey protein or the plant protein if you're going to do it a vegetarian style. And really, what we do, and I'm just going to explain this in short because I put it to. It's very comprehensive in here. First week, guess what we do? 3 or 4 shakes a day. See, what we're trying to do is break our mindset and our addictions to foods. We got to break our patterns. We got to break the habits. We got to break our routines that we're constantly in. If I have you try to do something and then just do it the same way, but just eat a little bit better than you have been eating, well, sometimes we'll have it. We'll go back to, we have so many patterns in place that it's hard to make the change. Typically, what we find is when we do this challenge, within the first month, we call it the 20 and 30 challenge. Where many times people have lost 20 pounds within the next 30 days. And it's not water weight, it's actually real weight because we're shifting your metabolism there. So what happens is that you have 3 to 4 shakes a day where you have the green vibrance in there, one of your proteins in there. In the morning you'll take your detox to detoxify yourself in the daily defense there. And that's all you're having during the first week. But you can have as many green vegetables as you want, leafy green vegetables, you know, snap peas. I put a whole list of them in there. And the reason being, we want high fiber vegetables that are in there that are live nutrients that will bind to the toxins. The fiber binds to the toxins and pulls it out of your body. So think about this. We just created a perfect place for you to become sufficient and non-toxic. Get out of your old habits that created the problems in the first place, right? And to make it simple. And then the next week, what you'll do is you'll add an advanced plan meal on at dinner. And then you'll keep that same pattern. And that way you can learn how to cook if you haven't cooked for a long time. You can learn how to shop if you haven't shopped for a long time. You can learn how to prepare things and start to create routines. And then the next week we add on an advanced plan lunch. All the recipes and the meals are in the back of the book. And then the next week we can add on an advanced plan breakfast, or you can start practicing intermittent fasting. We'll send you a copy of the 21-day transformation book that I wrote. It talks about intermittent fasting, but it's all right here. And so what I'm going to encourage you to do is to take action. It's simple, but it also takes a little bit of courage, right? It takes a lot of courage to be able to step out there. But all these things is what that whole challenge is about there. And so the way we do this tonight is that, you know, whenever we try to put resources in people's hands, for somebody that's getting like one of the bundles that is for the challenge, it's 20% off. Any other resources that we have here is 10% off there. We will be sending out an email for the challenge. If you want to participate, get your resources tonight. It's only 20. Tonight's the discount. But if you get the resources tonight, unfortunately, they will come in tomorrow. Somehow there was a backup in the shipping. It was supposed to be here today, but so we have most of them, but not all of them there. But whatever you buy tonight, we'll have set aside for you. We'll start on Monday, and here's what that's going to look like. Get your challenge resources. We'll be able to weigh you in if you choose. This isn't a weight loss challenge, by the way. This is a health challenge. But hey, weight is a very good indicator of health. Challenge starts on the 23rd. And then we're just going to win for yourself, your family, and the world on this one. So how you're going to do this is, you know, like I said, the resources. Find a challenge partner if you want. They can still do it. They can watch the video there. They can get the handout. This is not my information. This is the information for anybody that wants to get healthy there. We have our Better Results Faster class on the 25th, which is not this Wednesday, but the next Wednesday there. So if they have questions about the challenge, they can come to the class there. You can come to the class there. And then we have dinner with the doc on the 23rd. And if you've ever been to dinner with the doc, we're going to teach the same principles that you guys learned tonight about health and healing. And then, you know, look, we have our workout with the Discover Chiropractic, Wonder Women, the Surgettes, Monday and Wednesday nights. I don't know what that's what they are, my Surgettes. They're amazing, and they're the most dedicated group of women, but they're also great mentors for you. Every single one of them has their own story, but they're great mentors because they'll welcome you. Typically, we have surge classes Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Saturdays, but because we're short on people in here, we're holding off until the end of October. But the surgeettes will be here on Mondays and Wednesdays, and so I encourage you to come there. If you want surge exercises, let me know. So you guys have been a blessing tonight. I really appreciate you being here. Make sure your name is on the list. Make sure you thank Dr. Sherry for all the time and energy he put into it because he rocked it. If you're going to do the challenge with us, just be committed to doing the challenge. Just don't waver. Just say I'm going to do it or I'm not going to do it, right? And then just do it. And then, like I said, get your resources. And if you have any questions, and I'll be around here. I'll meet you guys out there. But yes.
What did you say about you don't have enough challenge bundles?
We only have like 8 of them right now. We'll get the rest of them in tomorrow. So like some of the detox.
So this thing of tonight only.
Yeah, just buy it tonight and we'll have it set it aside.
Okay, so we pay for it tonight and then
Yeah,
pick it up
yes,
later.
sorry about that.
Okay,
Okay.
just trying to get
Yeah.
clear.
Yeah, perfect. All right, guys, thank you. Have a blessed night. Go home, be non-toxic and sufficient.